One of the coolest things about this timeline is how conspiracy theories, which used to be totally fringe, are now being spoken about on the biggest podcast in the world, and no one even seems to bat an eyelid.
That's what it's like when you're like looking over there. You're like, holy shit, that's George W. Bush.
Do you think it was the real Biden or the Daddy Longlegs Biden?
I think it was a real one.
Okay.
I think.
Because you've seen the Daddy Longlegs guy,
he wasn't
right?
too tall. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like...
That one guy was nuts.
And he's jogging to the helicopter. I'm like,
nuts. Like, I want to know the story about that. Like, is there any paperwork on who that guy actually was?
I'd love...
Because that was not Joe Biden. That's a guy with a mask on.
The mask things are real.
We'll save the mask thing for just a moment, but they're talking about Joe Biden being too tall. And this was, of course, a thing last year. Here's a tweet from July. In fact, this is almost a year ago now, about Joe Biden supposedly growing a few inches while he was away for a few days. So you can see it there, this amused person says, Biden grew a few inches while he was missing for 5 days. This has almost 50 million views, apparently. Now you've got the podfather, Adam Curry, chatting with Joe Rogan, who has the biggest or one of the biggest podcasts in the world, probably the most popular podcast. And at the end of their 3-hour conversation a few months ago, they're just casually talking about, oh yeah, the then president of the United States of America. They had an actor playing that guy, and it was obvious because he was too tall.
What the fuck?
And then they start talking about the masks. Check this out.
I can tell you this from family experience.
You can see them online. Oh, from family experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
In 1967, let's just leave the family members out of it. But someone brought home a colleague from work, and the colleague had dinner and had coffee, and then at dessert, the wife was sitting there, had been talking to this person, and then this colleague took off his mask, and it was someone who the wife knew extremely well and had no idea. 1967.
Nice of him to just go to an ad right there. That's okay, we got the important stuff. Adam Curry, the podfather, is telling Joe Rogan that back in the 60s, they had disguise technology and these prosthetic masks that even people who knew the person being disguised couldn't tell it was a disguise. Now, I first heard these kinds of ideas being put forward back in 2019 by Tim Osmond from the Infinite Plane Society. In fact, the first time he and I ever spoke back in 2019, that was one of the topics that came up. These days, Tim doesn't really seem to speak about those topics so much. He's more focused on predictive programming and these kinds of things. But when I heard Adam Curry telling Joe Rogan about this mask technology, and why he thinks Biden or whoever was playing Biden was wearing a mask, when I heard that, I instantly thought of my chat with Tim Osmond, the first ever chat. JLB meets IPS. Of course, this was pre-311 and Muck Coronas and all the rest of the nonsense that followed in 2020 and beyond. But I still look back at that chat as one of my all-time favorites. So I'll link to that in the pinned comment below, and that one's available. I've made that available for free. Anyone can access that one. Go back and listen to what Tim was saying 6 years ago. The dude was ahead of the pack big time. Not just on that topic, on many topics. And as for Joe Rogan and Adam Curry, I think this was an intriguing conversation. The podfather with the biggest podcaster today. And some of the topics that came up, I'm like, what a timeline we're living in where this is just mainstream discussion.
It's pretty crazy stuff.
It's fucking nuts, man.
I mean, that's insane.
It wasn't just the masks or the fake Biden. You should hear some of the things these guys are talking about.
How dare you?
I'll link to the full episode of Joe Rogan. I know some people don't like Joe Rogan or they think he's controlled or whatever. Especially in our corner of the internet, I think some people are sleeping on just how much information is being shared in some of those chats.
Now you're bullshitting me.
And so what I did was I took some of my favorite clips from that episode and made them the focus of the JLB Clip Show Focus episode number 2, which I published just an hour or so ago. And you can access that via the JLB Patreon, which I recommend you go and join right now. Link to that in the pinned comment below. It's like $5 a month to get access to those clip shows, folks. That'd be a bargain at 10 times the price, in my opinion.
That is 100% true.
But if all you want is free material, go and check out my chat with Tim Osmond from 6 years ago. It is still one of the best pieces of content you could hope to hear in this corner of the internet.
Guaranteed 100%.
And if you think I'm biased, okay, maybe I am. Go and listen for yourself and make up your own mind. Tim and I might disagree these days on my predictive programmings.
Predictive programming is not a conspiracy theory.
But apart from that, Tim always has been and still is the tip of the spear in this corner of the internet.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And I still remember that first time we had a chat back in the before times. The good old days. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about this? Do you believe there was an actor playing Joe Biden the way that Adam Curry and Joe Rogan apparently believe? Do you think some guy was wearing a mask? Seriously, I'm interested to know, how popular is this? If this is getting spoken about on Joe Rogan, and probably on No Agenda as well if Adam Curry's talking about it, just how popular are these kinds of... The idea that the president of the United States of America is being played by an actor.
What the fuck is happening?
What a time to be alive.
There's something bad going on here.
Yeah,
you know?
there's some shenanigans going on.
It's pretty crazy stuff.
It's fucking nuts, man.
I mean, that's insane.
Now you're bullshitting me.